The emergency department had seen violence before, but nothing prepared anyone for the silence that followed the arrival of the military ambulance. 2 combat medics rolled out a blood-covered stretcher carrying a wounded special operations soldier, while an enormous black German shepherd strained against its tactical leash, growling at everyone who dared step closer. The dog's eyes never left its unconscious handler. Every doctor in the trauma bay froze. One wrong move and someone would be bitten before the patient could even be treated. "Get secured a surgeon. That animal is out of control." The dog answered with another thunderous bark, forcing nurses to retreat. Hospital security surrounded the entrance but refused to approach. Even the military escort admitted the service KD-9 had refused every command since the explosion overseas that had nearly killed its handler. Standing quietly near the supply cabinet was Emily Carter, the newest nurse in the hospital. She had transferred from a small rural clinic only 3 days earlier. Most of the staff barely remembered her name. They remembered something else instead. "She's too inexperienced. She'll panic. Keep her away from this." Emily lowered her eyes and stepped back without arguing. She had heard worse. Since arriving, every mistake in the department had somehow become her fault. She accepted every insult with calm silence, never defending herself. The trauma chief looked around desperately. "We can't sedate the dog without risking the patient. Somebody has to separate them." Nobody moved. Finally his eyes landed on Emily. "You stay here and watch the animal while we prepare another room. Just don't touch it." Several doctors exchanged sarcastic smiles. "Poor girl. She won't last 30 seconds. One by one they disappeared through the swinging doors, leaving Emily completely alone with the massive German shepherd. The hallway became strangely quiet. The dog stared directly into her eyes. Its growl echoed through the room. Emily didn't move. Instead of showing fear, she slowly removed her gloves and knelt several feet away, keeping her hands visible. She spoke so softly that even nearby security officers couldn't hear the words. The dog's ears twitched. Its growling became quieter. Emily continued speaking with the calm confidence of someone greeting an old friend instead of facing an animal everyone else feared. Outside the glass doors, doctors watched in disbelief. "What is she doing? She's crazy." The German shepherd suddenly took 3 slow steps toward her. Security reached for their weapons. Emily quietly whispered, "Easy, partner. Nobody here wants to hurt him." The dog stopped inches from her face. Everyone held their breath. Instead of attacking, the animal carefully rested its head against her shoulder. A stunned silence filled the corridor. The trauma chief stared through the window. "How did she do that?" Emily gently examined the dog's tactical vest. Hidden beneath the straps she noticed dried blood, not from the soldier but from the dog's injured side. Nobody had even realized the animal had been wounded during the blast. "You've been protecting him while bleeding yourself," she whispered. The dog's tail moved once. Emily slowly stood. "Open the trauma bay," she called. Nobody responded. "I said open it now." Something about her voice erased every hesitation. The doors opened immediately. The German shepherd walked beside her without a leash, staying close as if following a trusted commander. Doctors stepped aside. The wounded soldier was losing blood rapidly. Emily glanced at the monitors. Internal hemorrhage. "His pressure is crashing." One surgeon frowned. "You're only a nurse." She looked directly at him. "Then stop wasting time arguing and start listening." For the first time, the room became completely silent. She pointed toward the ultrasound. "Liver injury. Massive bleeding. Prepare emergency transfusion. Now." The surgeon hesitated. Another monitor alarm screamed. Finally he followed her instructions. Seconds later the scan confirmed exactly what she had predicted. The operating room exploded into motion. As the team rushed the soldier toward surgery, the German shepherd refused to leave the doorway. Emily approached once more. "He needs you to trust us." The dog looked at her, then slowly lay down outside the operating room without another sound. Nobody could explain it. The impossible had just become reality. The operating room doors closed, and every second seemed to last forever. Through the narrow window, Emily watched surgeons fighting to stop the internal bleeding while the German shepherd remained perfectly still beside her. The same dog that had terrified an entire hospital now refused to leave her side. Nurses whispered nervously, wondering how a newcomer had accomplished what trained handlers could not. Emily ignored every stare. Her attention never drifted from the patient or the loyal animal waiting for him. Nearly 40 minutes passed before a deafening alarm echoed through the operating suite. A blood vessel had ruptured unexpectedly, and the surgeon's hands began to shake. The wounded soldier's heartbeat plunged toward 0. Panic spread across the room. Instruments clattered onto the floor as staff searched desperately for another solution. Emily stepped forward without waiting for permission. "Rotate the clamp 10 degrees. You're sealing the wrong branch." The lead surgeon glared at her. "Stay in your lane." Before anyone could argue further, the anesthesiologist shouted, "We're losing him." The surgeon hesitated only a heartbeat before following Emily's instruction. The bleeding stopped almost instantly. Color slowly returned to the soldier's face, and the heart monitor settled into a steady rhythm. Relief swept through the room like a wave. Several doctors looked at Emily with stunned expressions, realizing she had just saved a life they were moments away from losing. Outside, the German Shepherd suddenly lifted its head. Without seeing the monitors, it somehow sensed its handler was alive. It gave a quiet whine, then rested peacefully again. When the operation finally ended, a gray-haired military officer entered the hospital with several uniformed personnel. His eyes immediately found Emily. He walked past administrators, surgeons, and security officers before stopping in front of her. "I was hoping I'd never have to call on your experience again," he said quietly. The staff exchanged confused glances. The officer turned toward the crowd. "You know her as your newest nurse." "I know her as the combat medic who coordinated the evacuation of dozens of wounded soldiers during the Falcon Ridge mission after every senior officer was incapacitated. She declined medals and promotions because she wanted a quieter life." Silence swallowed the hallway. Every sarcastic comment, every dismissive glance, and every insult suddenly felt unbearable to those who had spoken them. The trauma chief lowered his head. "I owe you an apology." Emily smiled gently. "You don't owe me anything except the same respect every patient and every coworker deserves." Just then, the recovering soldier was wheeled into intensive care. Though weak, he managed to raise a trembling hand. The German Shepherd carefully approached, rested its head against the bed, and wagged its tail for the first time since the explosion. Tears filled the room as the soldier whispered, "Good boy." Emily quietly slipped toward the exit before anyone could stop her. She had never wanted recognition. Saving lives had always mattered more than applause. Behind her, the entire emergency department stood in respectful silence, watching the nurse they had underestimated disappear down the hallway. From that day forward, every new employee heard the story of the quiet nurse who had calmed an aggressive service K-9, saved a dying soldier, and reminded an entire hospital that true heroes rarely announce themselves. If this story moved you, remember that courage is often quiet, compassion is powerful, and the greatest strength is revealed when others least expect it. Subscribe for more unforgettable stories of ordinary people whose extraordinary choices change lives forever.